Nobody builds something that big underground just for fun. You don't do that unless you have to.
Right.
You don't burrow like a human ant nest.
Yeah. Human beings are so weird in so many ways.
Yes.
The history we were taught is a lie. From a coded manuscript no one can read, to an ancient device that shouldn't exist, to figures carved in the image of something not human.
If you look down there, you can actually see the raised portions that are carved directly out of the bedrock itself. They would have carved a hole into the middle of this where they could have planted the large T-shaped stones into.
These discoveries defy explanation, and their existence suggests parts of our history were erased on purpose. The Voynich Manuscript, a book that defies language. The Voynich Manuscript sits today inside Yale University's Beinecker Rare Book and Manuscript Library under catalog number MS408. It is locked away in controlled conditions because it is considered one of the strangest and most puzzling books in the world. Scientists tested the vellum, a material made from animal skin that people used for writing before paper was widely available, and confirmed that it dates back to the early 1400s. This means the manuscript has been around for more than 6 centuries. The book became known to the public in 1912 when Wilfrid Voynich, a Polish rare book dealer, purchased it from a Jesuit library in Italy. He quickly realized it was unique, but he could not explain it. Earlier traces of the book suggest it may have been owned by Emperor Rudolf II of the Holy Roman Empire in the late 1500s. Rudolf was known for his obsession with alchemy, astrology, and secret knowledge. The book's trail goes cold after that. Its journey through history is full of gaps, and no one knows who originally wrote it or why. The manuscript contains more than 200 pages of writing in a script that does not match any known alphabet or language. Scholars have studied every symbol, but still cannot link them to existing writing systems. The script looks organized and systematic, not random, which makes the mystery deeper. Alongside the writing are illustrations that confuse researchers even more. There are pictures of plants that do not match any species cataloged in modern botany. There are astronomical diagrams that appear similar to star charts and zodiac drawings. There are also strange images of women bathing in pools connected by pipes, raising questions about medical or ritual meaning. Linguistic studies confirm that the script behaves like a real language. The frequency of certain symbols follows patterns seen in natural languages. Words vary in length in ways that suggest grammar rules. This means it is not simple nonsense. Someone created an entire system with consistency. The biggest unanswered question is why? Why would someone create an entire book in a system no one else could understand? Many experts have tried to solve it. During the 20th century, some of the greatest code breakers who worked for Allied intelligence during World War II examined it. These were the same people who broke advanced Axis ciphers, yet none of them could find meaning in the manuscript. In recent years, computer scientists have trained artificial intelligence models to test possible translations. Some results link it loosely to Hebrew or Latin roots, but nothing has been confirmed. No translation is accepted by the wider academic community. Languages normally leave descendants or related forms, yet this one stands alone. The fact that no other record exists raises the possibility of total cultural erasure. History has examples of destroyed knowledge, such as the burning of the Library of Alexandria, where wars and invasions set fire to scrolls that held centuries of science and history, or the destruction of Mayan codices during the Spanish conquest, when Bishop Diego de Landa ordered them burned as works of the devil, erasing almost an entire civilization's record of astronomy, mathematics, and culture in a single act. The Voynich manuscript may be evidence of a similar loss, leaving behind only a book with no context. The illustrations add darker implications. If the plants were drawn from real species, then they represent forms of life that have either gone extinct or remain undiscovered. If the medical diagrams were practical, then the manuscript could contain knowledge of treatments, rituals, or biological information that is now lost. The bathing women shown in tubes and pools may hint at ideas about health or reproduction that were important to its creators. The fact that these images remain undeciphered means possible scientific or medical knowledge may be locked away permanently. The greatest fear among researchers is that the truth will never be known. This book exists as undeniable physical proof of either lost human knowledge or deliberate deception of an extraordinary kind. Both possibilities are disturbing. One suggests humanity has forgotten an entire culture or science. The other suggests someone long ago created a puzzle so powerful that it continues to waste the time and resources of generations of scholars. If words can hide their meaning for centuries, what about machines? What if something mechanical survived, far older than it should be? The Antikythera mechanism. In 1901, a group of sponge divers working off the coast of Antikythera, a small Greek island, discovered a shipwreck. The wreck contained statues, pottery, jewelry, and other common items. Among these items was a corroded lump of bronze that looked worthless. For years, it was dismissed as a piece of junk until researchers noticed fragments of gears hidden inside. This object became known as the Antikythera mechanism. Careful study revealed that it was more than an ordinary tool. Radiocarbon dating and historical analysis place it in the 2nd century before the Common Era, making it over 2,000 years old. What made it remarkable was not only its age, but also its function. Researchers determined that the mechanism was designed to predict astronomical events with precision. It could calculate the positions of the planets, the phases of the moon, the timing of eclipses, and even the schedule of the ancient Olympic Games. By every standard definition, it operated like a mechanical computer. This is puzzling because nothing like it should have existed at that time. Historians believed ancient societies had knowledge of mathematics and astronomy, but no one expected evidence of such advanced mechanical engineering. Modern scientists have reconstructed the mechanism using CT scans, X-rays, and computer modeling. They found that it contained over 30 interlocking gears cut with microscopic precision. Modern recreations require lasers and advanced software to reproduce the same level of accuracy. If the Greeks truly made it with hand tools, then their craftsmanship was at a level historians never imagined. Only 82 fragments survive, so every reconstruction involves guesswork. We still do not know the full capabilities of the device. The gaps in understanding are disturbing. No other device of this complexity is known from antiquity. Mechanical gears of this kind do not appear again until medieval Europe, nearly 1,000 years later. This leaves a massive hole in the historical record. Either the Antikythera mechanism was the single product of an isolated genius, or it represents an entire lost tradition of advanced engineering. If the Antikythera mechanism was unique, then the knowledge of its maker died with them, meaning an invention that could have advanced science by centuries was lost. If it was not unique, then it means there was once an entire body of knowledge deliberately wiped from history. Both scenarios are horrifying. In one case, humanity lost progress by accident. In the other case, it was taken away intentionally, which suggests suppression by war, conquest, or deliberate destruction. History shows that knowledge can be erased violently. When Rome conquered Greece, many works of science and engineering were destroyed or scattered. The writings of Archimedes, which described war machines and mathematical principles, largely disappeared after the Roman sack of Syracuse in 259 AD 112 BCE. Only fragments survived. Later, when religious authorities gained power in Europe, discoveries that clashed with doctrine were suppressed. For example, the works of the Greek astronomer Aristarchus, who proposed that the Earth revolved around the Sun, were ignored or condemned in favor of geocentric models that placed Earth at the center. The Antikythera mechanism could be evidence of such erasure. The loss is not abstract. Imagine what humanity might have achieved if mechanical computing had begun 2,000 years earlier. The Industrial Revolution, which changed human life in the 18th century, could have happened in the ancient world. Steam engines, complex machines, and advanced navigation could have been developed long before the Middle Ages. Instead, humanity remained in a technological darkness for centuries. If a computer could be hidden in a shipwreck, what else lies in the deep? The answer may be watching us from the cold seabed itself. Göbekli Tepe. In the mid-1990s, archaeologists in southeastern Turkey began excavating a site called Göbekli Tepe. What they found changed everything we thought we knew about human history. The site contains massive stone pillars arranged in circular enclosures. Some of the pillars rise more than 15 feet and weigh over 20 tons. They are carved with animals, abstract symbols, and humanoid shapes. Carbon dating shows that the site is nearly 12,000 years old. This means it was built around 9,600 BCE, thousands of years before Stonehenge or the Egyptian pyramids. The problem is that history says this should not exist. At that time, humans were thought to be simple hunter-gatherers. They had not yet invented farming, organized religion, or permanent cities. Yet at Göbekli Tepe, people came together to design and build a vast ceremonial complex that required planning, engineering, and cooperation on a massive scale. There are no signs of agriculture nearby from that period, which raises the disturbing question of how these groups fed the workers and organized the labor to raise such stones. The site creates terrifying gaps in the timeline of civilization. If hunter-gatherers built Göbekli Tepe, it means they were far more advanced than we believed. If they did not build it, then someone else with unknown knowledge did. Either way, the accepted story of human progress is shattered. The invention of farming was always thought to come first, followed by religion and monumental building. Göbekli Tepe reverses that order. Religion or ritual gathering seems to have come first, with farming following later. That means humanity may have been driven by belief systems and possibly fear long before it was driven by survival or food. The most horrifying fact is that the site was deliberately buried around 8000 BCE. Thousands of tons of soil were used to cover the enclosures, preserving them for millennia. No one knows why. Was it to protect the site from enemies? Was it to hide something the builders feared? Or was it part of a ritual to close off a dark chapter in their culture? The deliberate burial implies intention and possibly danger. It suggests the builders did not want later generations to see or use the site. The carvings on the pillars also create disturbing questions. Some appear to show animals that lived in the region at the time, but others show abstract symbols that no one has decoded. Some researchers think the carvings may record astronomical events. One controversial theory suggests they may even depict a comet strike that devastated the Earth around 10,800 BCE, which is linked to the Younger Dryas, a sudden period of global cooling. If true, Göbekli Tepe could represent humanity's memory of a disaster so severe it nearly wiped out entire populations. The cultural implications are equally horrifying. If belief and ritual came before farming, then religion did not grow out of settled life. Instead, it may have driven people to settle in the first place. That means fear of gods or forces beyond their control could have shaped human society from the very beginning. Human civilization may not have started with cooperation for survival, but with submission to invisible powers. But mysteries are not only hidden in temples or buried under soil. Some rise high into the mountains, cut from stone with a precision modern tools still struggle to match. The Longyu Caves. In 1992, farmers in Zhejiang province in China tried to drain a pond that had existed in their village for centuries. They expected to find nothing more than mud and rock. Instead, they uncovered the entrance to an enormous underground chamber. Further investigation revealed not just one, but a network of vast hand-carved caves, now known as the Longyu Caves. Each chamber is massive. Some rise more than 100 feet high, with ceilings that stretch overhead like the inside of a cathedral. The walls and ceilings are perfectly smooth, showing deliberate shaping of the stone. Across every surface, there are consistent parallel tool marks. These marks run in the same direction across huge areas, suggesting thousands of workers chiseled the stone by hand in an organized way. The caves are estimated to be around 2,000 years old, dating roughly to the Qin or Han dynasties. Yet no historical record mentions them. Ancient Chinese texts are detailed and describe engineering projects, battles, and monuments of the time, but not a single word is written about the Longyu Caves. This silence is terrifying. It means either the caves were built in complete secrecy or that someone deliberately erased their memory. The scale of the effort is staggering. Removing the rock needed to carve out the caves would have required hundreds of thousands of cubic meters of stone to be cut and hauled away. Even with organized labor, this would have taken years of suffering. Workers would have endured backbreaking labor in darkness with primitive tools, carving endlessly without sunlight or rest. The manpower cost is beyond comprehension. If the builders were forced laborers, it means countless people may have died underground. The ugliest part of the mystery is that we do not know why these caves exist. They show no evidence of being used as homes, storage, or military fortifications. This leaves horrifying implications. If the caves were built for rituals, then entire populations may have been forced into years of suffering to create spaces for ceremonies we no longer understand. If they were built for military purposes, then it suggests massive underground projects existed in ancient China, kept secret even from official records. If they were abandoned immediately after completion, it means the lives spent building them were wasted for reasons we will never know. The absence of records is almost worse than the caves themselves. Ancient China kept detailed bureaucratic logs of construction projects, tax records, and public works. The Great Wall, canals, and imperial tombs are all documented. Yet the Longyu Caves, which required more work than many famous monuments, are completely absent. This could mean records were deliberately destroyed, which suggests that whatever happened inside the caves was meant to be erased from memory. And if massive caves can be cut into the earth and forgotten, what about remote landscapes where entire mountains seem to twist and burn with forces no one can explain? The Saqqara bird, evidence of ancient flight? In 1898, during excavations in the Saqqara necropolis in Egypt, archaeologists uncovered a small wooden artifact from a tomb dated to around 200 BCE. At first glance, it looked like a simple bird carving, and for many years, it was stored in a museum without much attention. Later examination, however, revealed features that did not match a normal bird. The object had wings shaped more like an airplane than a natural bird, and the tail was vertical like a rudder. There were no legs carved, which meant it was not designed to stand as a statue. This discovery became known as the Saqqara bird. It is about 7 inches long, carved from sycamore wood, and carefully balanced. When aerodynamic experts studied it, they noted that its design followed principles of flight. The wings were curved in a way similar to modern gliders, and the vertical tail suggested control in the air. Some researchers argued that the artifact was simply a toy or a ritual object, but others warned that it might represent something far more disturbing. The gaps in knowledge are terrifying. There are no records explaining the artifact. No texts describe experiments with flight in ancient Egypt. Yet here is a physical object that suggests someone understood how air moves across wings. If it was a child's toy, why carve it with such precision? If it was symbolic, why omit legs and give it an aerodynamic tail? The unanswered questions pile up with no clear resolution. The implications are dark. If the Egyptians experimented with flight, it means ancient societies may have tested technologies we assume were modern. What if they built larger versions of the Saqqara bird? What if they launched gliders from temple walls or cliffs? No evidence survives to confirm this, which means that if it did happen, the knowledge was erased. If the Egyptians had knowledge of flight and it threatened religious or political order, it may have been deliberately hidden or destroyed. There is also the horrifying possibility of human cost. If experiments with flight were attempted, then failures would have been inevitable. Imagine ancient test subjects climbing temple roofs or desert cliffs to launch prototypes of gliders. Without modern understanding of air currents and structural strength, those attempts would have ended in deadly crashes. The suffering of forgotten individuals who may have tested these designs would have left no trace in official records. The ugliest implication is that human civilization may have unlocked the science of flight long before the modern age, and then lost it completely. The Wright brothers achieved powered flight in 1903, but if ancient people understood gliding or aerodynamics centuries earlier, then humanity lost more than 1,000 years of possible progress. Entire eras of exploration and technological advancement were stolen from us. This means our timeline of progress is not natural and steady. It is fragile, interrupted by suppression, accidents, or deliberate erasure. And if ancient experiments with flight could vanish into silence, what about discoveries buried in the earth that seem even older than humanity itself? The Ubaid lizard figurines. The first gods were not human. In the 1920s and 1930s, archaeologists excavating the ancient Ubaid culture in southern Mesopotamia uncovered a set of strange artifacts. These small clay figurines, dated to between 4000 and 5000 BCE, were unlike anything else from the period. Instead of depicting human beings, they showed figures with long, narrow faces, slit-like eyes, and reptilian heads. Some had elongated skulls, others had scales carved into their bodies. The most disturbing examples showed lizard-headed females nursing babies with the same reptilian features. The Ubaid culture is one of the earliest known in Mesopotamia, the same region where Sumerian civilization later gave rise to writing, cities, and organized religion. The figurines were not isolated finds. They appeared in multiple excavations, across temples and domestic sites. Their consistent style suggests they were not accidents or artistic experiments. They were deliberate representations of something that mattered to this society. The unanswered questions are terrifying. Why would one of the first settled cultures in history represent its figures in this way? Were these their gods? Were they mythic beings? Or were they something remembered and feared? There are no surviving texts to explain them, only the silent clay figures with reptilian faces staring back through thousands of years. The implications are horrific. If these were gods, then the first deities worshipped by early city-building humans were not human in form. That means religion, one of the oldest forces shaping human culture, may have been inspired by figures that looked nothing like us. If these were depictions of rulers or elites, then the earliest power structures could have been justified by claiming descent from beings that were deliberately shown as non-human. If they were memories of something real, then the foundation of human civilization may have been influenced by contact with a presence we no longer recognize. The figurines also raise disturbing cultural questions. Mesopotamian religion later included serpent and dragon-like gods, such as Ningish Zeta, often represented with serpent features. The Ubaid figurines suggest that such imagery did not come from imagination alone. It may have been carried forward from earlier traditions, rooted in encounters or beliefs now lost. This continuity is deeply unsettling. It suggests that from the very beginning, humanity associated power, divinity, and authority with beings that were not entirely human. The ugliest angle is what these figures may imply about control. If people worshipped or feared non-human figures, then the earliest organized societies may have been built on submission to something alien to our form. Human beings may have accepted domination or ritual sacrifice not under human leaders, but under the shadow of something depicted as reptilian. This raises the possibility that suffering, exploitation, and obedience to non-human powers are not modern inventions, but foundations of human history itself. The Ubaid lizard figurines are small, but their meaning is vast and horrifying. They confront us with the idea that the first gods humans ever carved were not human at all. They suggest that the origins of our culture, our rituals, and our religions may be tied to something we cannot explain, something we cannot even recognize as part of ourselves. That is what makes them one of the most disturbing discoveries in archaeology. But not all mysteries come from the distant past. Some emerged in modern times, and they left scientists just as shaken. The Baltic Sea. In 2011, a Swedish dive team known as Ocean X was scanning the floor of the Baltic Sea with sonar when their screens lit up with something they had never seen before. Nearly 300 feet below the surface, the instruments showed a perfect circular formation, more than 200 feet wide, resting on the seabed. It was not a shipwreck. It was not a known rock outcrop. The image looked artificial, almost designed. In the middle of one of the most navigated seas in the world, something had been hiding in plain sight. The first images shocked the public. The formation seemed to have straight edges, sharp corners, and even stair-like features. To some, it looked like a crashed spacecraft. To others, it resembled the ruins of an ancient fortress swallowed by the sea. Theories multiplied rapidly. Was it a World War II weapon? A lost city? Or something not human at all? Conspiracy groups pointed to its strange shape and claimed it was proof of a UFO lying at the bottom of the Baltic. For months, the story spread across headlines worldwide. Divers who visited the site reported that their electrical equipment failed whenever they approached the object. Compasses spun without reason. Lights flickered out. Even engines cut off unexpectedly. To believers, this was proof that something beyond science was resting on the seafloor. The Baltic Sea anomaly became one of the most debated and feared mysteries of the modern era. When geologists examined samples collected from the site, the truth began to take shape. The rocks were identified as granites, sandstones, and gneisses, all common to the region and formed through natural processes during the Ice Age. Experts explained that glaciers moving across the seabed thousands of years ago could have scraped, carved, and deposited these materials in unusual patterns. What sonar made look like a constructed object was, in reality, a natural formation shaped by ice and erosion. Still, the anomaly remains unsettling. For years, even experts could not explain what the sonar had revealed. Something that seemed so artificial turned out to be natural, yet the illusion was strong enough to convince the world otherwise. The mystery shows how little we sometimes understand about the environments we think we have mastered. And this is the unsettling truth. Ancient civilizations left us mysteries we cannot explain, but even today the world produces puzzles that defy our understanding. The unknown has never gone away.